Hi, this is Tom Jacobs. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, psychic medium, and channel. Find me on the web at TomJacobsGirlStarves1.avi. It was only a matter of time before I returned to read a news story here or there. I don't usually read news online or receive news as it comes to us, just because the vibration tends to be terrible. This is why people feel crappy and angry and frustrated and tense after they experience the news. And of course I've been asked, well, how do you know what's going on in the world? And the truth is I observe all the other people stressing out about what's happening in the world, and that tells me what's happening in the world. But anyway, this morning I opened a popular social networking site that I frequent, and there's a link from a friend to a Guardian article from the UK. And the headline says something like, "Girl dies while parents raised virtual child in online game." Of course, this grabbed my attention because just think about that. Girl dies while parents raise virtual child in online game. I kind of have this half smile only because I catch myself getting caught up in the title, as any of us would. And then I've also spent a great deal of time and energy training myself to get grounded and to experience the feelings that I'm having in reactions to things, especially things like news stories, but then to not get swept away by it and not get dragged into some basement, some kind of low way of experiencing things. So I want to just talk about this for a minute. For a few years ago, I used to consume quite a bit of NPR and PRI, this kind of public radio things, and I just find it very intellectually stimulating, etc. But I had to really limit all other media and just deal with that. But then I had to limit that, and I don't even listen to that anymore. And the reason is that the vibrations of what come to us are these vibrations are extremely important. I did a couple of podcasts in the Living Consciously series, which you can find on iTunes, about what gets in, listening to the body and what actually we're willing to consume. So I want to do two things today in this little video. One of them is to talk about that, what gets in, but also to talk specifically about how we can look through our spiritual eyes, with the bird's eye view, of why something like that would happen. So it's kind of a two-parter, and I'm going to be brief about each one. This idea of what gets in matters. You're an energetic being, and you, as a human, if you're finding my work and finding these videos, you're ready to adapt to the truth that you are an energetic being. And what happens is you encounter energy, and then you respond with emotion. So there's an energy that comes through a headline. There's an energy that comes through the voice of a broadcaster. There's energy there. And it's a particular frequency, depending on what the motivation of that person is, of that writer. It all matters. I'm sensitive enough now that I get vibrations through emails, which is kind of ridiculous if you think about it. But it kind of, that generated product, those words, those paragraphs, are indicative of the person's energy who's sending it. And sometimes I find myself needing to wait a couple weeks before responding to certain emails, just because I have to kind of navigate the energy in addition to the information and just figure out the right way that I want to respond. When it comes to headlines like this, if you're on popular social networking sites, you're going to encounter tons of headlines about how terrible things are. And a part of you is going to want to say, well, the world isn't that bad. And you're going to want, that part of you is capable of going out into your world and creating the kind of world you want to live in. And there's another part of you that feels this, pull down into the basement, this kind of shock, and surprise and also the heart opens and we feel pain about these things, such stories, such realities in our world. Well, get grounded. Send cords into the earth. You can write me to get a 13-minute MP3 meditation that I hand out to people, which supports this, and I get incredible comments from my clients, and I've used it for years before I do readings, and I actually learned it from my channeling teacher years ago, and I pass it on to people. So that's one tool. Gemstones, the way you eat, spending time in nature. You can see these earlier videos here I think the one on past lives, integrating past life parts, talks a lot about getting grounded. It's extremely important. So getting grounded so you can experience what you experience, feel what you feel. I read the headline and part of me went, oh my God, how could that happen? You know, this kind of my heart just sank, and because I'm not immune to those things, but I just work on not shielding. We don't need protection. I just work on being very clear about my energy field and what I'm going to experience and how I'm going to navigate things. So so what I want to invite you to do is to do some home play, which is to also known as homework, but try to put a positive spin on it. Do some home play and observing parts of you that react to things, headlines. Maybe there are continuing headlines about Wall Street protests. Maybe there are continuing headlines about the state of the economy, or joblessness, or healthcare reform, or how Social Security is headed for the can, or whatever it is. Observe your reactions. Be conscious of the parts of you that want to leap forward and experience the drama of something within you. And then I want you to take steps over time, and you can call me to do work with you to support you in learning this, but to take steps over time to mitigate that, to moderate that, so that you're more in control of your energy field. And every time you read a headline about how parents neglected their child and the child dies, you don't lose energy. You don't have this thing that opens up and then just your energy in the form of emotion pours out. So I read this headline, and my brain says, did I really read that? Because, you know, I surround myself with people in my world who are pretty conscious and kind and intentional about what they do, and people who live from their hearts. And so that kind of, you know, story of a faraway, this took place in South Korea, this story. It appears the incident was September of 2009, and then the story was actually published in March of 2010. So it's been a little while, and maybe you've seen this headline, but I just saw it today for the first time. And it doesn't matter how old it is. I read it, and I was shocked. One part of me was shocked. One part of me said, oh my God, here's the opportunity to say something to myself and others about seeing the situation through my spiritual eyes, because all the channeling I've done and all the work I've done as a medium with spirits of people who have passed away, and all the channeling I've done from the Ascended Master Jehudi, who's also the name is known as Thoth or Thoth or Toth or Toth, and Saint Germain and Merlin. And all of that perspective has taught me about how souls create together what they experience. So there is a certain kind of responsibility we expect parents to have, and those are looking at things through our human eyes, to some degree through our spiritual eyes. But we must accept that when somebody hurts somebody else, when somebody neglects or abandons somebody else, even a helpless person such as an infant, and this baby was 3 months old at the time of her passing, that we must understand that soul, that 3-month-old, has created that situation with those parents. I invite you, as I have worked really hard to do, to understand how to take responsibility for what we experience. When I say the word responsibility, and actually when Jehudi, the Ascended Master, says it, my mind triggers into action. When I say it, your mind might trigger into action. Responsibility can lead to judging self, because if we're responsible for something, that has to do, or that calls up our upbringing of being called out to be more mature, and being called immature, being called irresponsible, something like that. But taking responsibility really in this context is about understanding that the soul has co-created everything it experiences.